What up, YouTube world? It's Jose again. I'm over here reading the NBCC Code of Ethics. I'm in the research section, which is currently page 10 of the manual. I'm going to read 10, 11, and 12. We're going to end before we get to the mental health section. I'm going to have that be its own independent section. Let's get to it. Research section. Counselors shall protect the welfare of research participants by taking all appropriate precautions to prevent negative psychological or physical effects. 70. Counselors shall protect the identities of research participants by appropriately disguising data, except when there are specific written client authorizations for an identified appropriate reason. Counselors will discuss appropriate considerations and obtain written consent from the client prior to the use of any research activities or experimental approach. Counselors conducting research with underrepresented groups must take into consideration their historical, diverse, and multicultural experiences and only use techniques and approaches based on established, clinically sound, and the theory applicable and underrepresented populations. Counselors shall take credit only for research activities they have performed or authored. When quoting the work of others, counselors shall provide appropriate citations and references. Counselors shall provide appropriate disclosures prior to research participation and appropriately report to and debrief participants regarding the subject and features of the study after research data is collected, as well as clarify any client misconceptions about the research. 74. Counselors shall provide critical information through an informed consent process, potential research subjects that will assist them in researching a determination about participation. This information shall include the research purpose, process, duration, risks, potential consequences, and procedures, as well as the participant's right to refuse or withdraw from participation. This consent process shall also contain relevant information with regard to the recording of voices or images of participants. For research participants who are unable to give informed consent, counselors shall document considerations concerning the potential subject's desire to participate and the legal guardian's consent to the subject's participation. Written consent for participation must be obtained for all research participants. 75. Counselors shall accurately report results of research, including limitations and variables that may have impacted the findings. Counselors shall take all appropriate and necessary steps to publicly correct errors in their published research. 76. Counselors shall not employ deceptive techniques in research unless there are no alternatives and there is significant prospective, scientific, and educational or clinical value to the research. In all cases, counselors shall review potential techniques with and provide an explanation to participants during the debriefing, and will not use any techniques that could be reasonably expected to cause harm. Prior to conducting research with students, counselors shall carefully follow ethical standards, including requirements regarding participant supervisee and client confidentiality and multiple relationships. Counselors shall not indicate to students or supervisees that research participation is required or will otherwise negatively affect academic standing, supervision, or counseling services. Counselors shall comply with applicable guidelines when designing, conducting, or reporting research, including those of the relevant institutional review board. 79. Counselors shall credit the work of contributors, including students who have contributed to research or publication either to joint authorship, acknowledgement, or other appropriate means. 80. Counselors shall comply with intellectual property laws and accepted publication guidelines. This section is called Counselor Education. Competence. Counselor educators shall stay current with and be well informed about counseling related professional issues and developments. Counselor educators shall engage in teaching and student supervision activities only with respect to their areas of professional knowledge and competence. Counselor educators shall ensure that all teaching activities are based on current research and evidence-based practices. When providing training in unresearched or developing content areas, counselors educators shall advise all students that content of the training is not based on current research and concerns theories. 84. Counselors who are counselor educators shall maintain professional licensure and or certification consistent with the practice and teaching activities, including specialization areas such as school, clinical, mental health, rehabilitation, counseling. 85. Counselors who are counselor educators shall maintain competency in the delivery models and tools they are using, that they use for teaching, supervision, and research. Sorry, I'm struggling, guys. Multiple relationships. Counselor educators shall avoid non-academic relationships with counseling students during the student's participation in the educator's training program. Counselor educators with pre-existing relationships with students shall clearly communicate the nature of the relationship to the appropriate university administrators and students, and shall carefully manage risks related to the relationship. Counselor educators shall not engage in intimate or sexual relationships with current students or individuals who were students enrolled in the counselor program within the past 5 years. Prohibited sexual or romantic intimacy engagements include physical contact and electronic relations. Gatekeeping section. Counselor educators shall serve as professional gatekeepers and assume responsibilities related to the evaluation of their students' professional behaviors and dispositions. Counselor educators shall establish clear written behavioral and dispositional expectations for students, as well as policies regarding student remediation. Counselor educators engage in gatekeeping practices that account for the development nature of counselor training as well as cultural differences among students. Advocacy. Counselor educators shall advocate for counseling students to address programmatic barriers and obstacles that hinder student academic growth and development. Cultural identity, section 90. Counselor educators will practice cultural responsiveness in their teaching and respect cultural identity values, sexual orientation, and gender identity of their students. This concludes the research section, the counselor education section, multiple relationship section, gatekeeping section, advocacy section, and cultural identity section of the NBCC Code of Ethics. Next up, telehealth.